Um, yeah, so I'm having an impromptu sleepover. Our house is kind of the like chosen location for the neighborhood friend sleepovers, and so I try to keep things in the house available for the impromptu sleepovers. But today they took me by surprise. They said, "Oh, we just want to swim in the pool," and then they suspiciously had backpacks. I should have known. Anyway, so if we hear anything, that's what's going on. They're having a great time. So I have been going through like Master Chef videos or Hell's Kitchen, the Gordon Ramsay show, and I don't really watch. I don't know what it is. I just don't watch TV anymore. But like I'll watch snippets of things online, and for some reason, YouTube this week decided that the Master Chef clips were the clips for this week. So I started watching the show. I don't think I'd really ever seen it before. And there's a lot going on there. But there was some incident between some guy named Jonathan and another one named Jason. And I didn't know that Jason was low key terrible. I was coming to the clip very new. But some shenanigans go on in the kitchen. Jason causes problems, and then I forget if they got kicked out or something. But what ended up happening is something I look for whenever I'm looking at abuse dynamics. So the one guy goes off and he goes into the room. There's like a men's dorm room. And as he does, Jason goes on. Now he's just sulking by himself. When in reality, it's very reasonable to say, "Oh, I need some time for me. I'm going to get some distance. I'm going to find my calm or just get away from this like very aggressive, dominating kind of person who's saying things I don't agree with and like attempting to bother me." So he attempts to leave. Like if you were ever a brother or sister, 100% you have lived this. um, so he leaves. And well, guess who decides? Oh, the conversation's not done. I'm coming in. I still have stuff to say. Jason comes in. So then, like, the Jonathan dude gets up and he leaves. And like, Jason follows him again. I'm still talking, blah, 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 and he was just so shitty. Was just so shitty. But it reminded me of one of the things that I look for in abuse dynamics, which is who will allow the interaction to end. They will follow. They will follow their target. They'll follow their victim because they're not done. They still have more stuff to say. The other person doesn't get to decide that they're finished. Even though everybody's a grown adult and we get to decide if we participate in a conversation, a debate, or argument, or whatever, these people will not let you go to sleep. They won't let you end the interaction. They won't let you leave. And so when this happens so often, when this person is so obnoxious or dominating or aggressive, the other person just like to a dysfunctional, toxic person, it's energizing. To them, they're getting, I don't know, their dopamine fix or their fix of feeling significant and important, or they're enjoying themselves. That's why a lot of abusers, 100%, will sit there and lecture you or argue at you for hours. You will be there for hours. They don't want to let it go. They're in a groove. They want to be mad. They want to be mad, or they want to feel justified, or they want to, whatever the feeling is that they're getting from this interaction, feeling superior. Like if you're a parent, you have the conversation 5 to 15 minutes, then you're done. You move on to the next thing. Maybe you establish like a consequence or something like that. You move on, right? That would be a normal thing to do. Oh, let's have this conversation. Okay, we've got a plan of action to move forward. We move on to the next thing. Not with these people. Dominating is the point. Feeling righteous is the point. Feeling justified is the point. Arguing you into submission is the point. So they like that feeling. Whereas to you, the victim, the target, it makes a normal person feel tired. Most people are not going to feel energized by this kind of interaction, nor should they. This is why I say all the time in these videos where I'm talking about like debates I've had or whatever, where I'm like, you should not feel like you have to replicate any of this. This is not a normal thing. Most people are not energized. Like, ooh, now we're on to the next thing. So so anyway, right, back to the thing. So let's say you're a person who's not as, like you don't feel energized by this. This makes you tired. And you just don't want to, you like, oh, I know this person's going to be like this. And I don't feel like having this endless hours long conflict where I'm having to sit there and justify and like come up with things and they won't listen to me anyway. And so that is one of the starts, I think, one of many options, one of the starts of how these abuse dynamics start to happen, because the victim is like, I just really would rather not deal with this. I'm gonna accommodate them in some way, and then hopefully they don't get triggered again, and it's fine. Except there's always a thing. There's always something. If it's not one thing, it's another. They can have a different opinion on the same issue. Because it's not about necessarily the issue. It's about they want to feel right, or it's about they're looking for something to complain about or be negative about or argue about or something. You're wrong. You're doing things wrong. You should be different. You should do exactly what they say. Blah blah blah, etc. Now, as always, if you are a victim of abuse, you often hear stuff like that and you think, oh, I don't want to be like that. So I need to be extra careful to not be like this. This does not apply to you. You telling the abuser, hey, it's not okay to talk to me this way, or you hit me and that's not okay. Having conversations about the ways that they are abusing you and misusing their power, misusing their access to you. That is, there's nothing wrong with trying to have a discussion about that or bringing it up. When abusers are having these endless hours long conversations, if they can find something to pin you on, it might be small. It might be something they're going back to. It's not real stuff necessarily, and also it's often just about how you're deficient in general. It's about who you are, not necessarily about what you're doing. Although they're looking for things that you've done, mistakes that you've made, so that they can hold those over your head forever and ever. Again, it's just remember that you still get to talk about how you've been targeted or abused by this person. This is not the same as them haranguing you into oblivion about an outfit that you wore. What? Or the fact that you were not available on the phone for a couple of hours while you were at work. And now you're having an endless hours, haranguement from them late into the evening. That is not the same as a victim trying to talk to an abuser about, hey, it's not okay to call me these names. It's not okay to hit me. So when victims hear these like things, they start to think, oh, I need to be different. And you have to understand, what I'm describing with respect to abusers is not what victims are doing. Okay, so anyway, a lot of the times the abusers are the ones who don't allow it to end. You can't stop it. It's not within your power to stop. They have to be stopped, or they have to stop themselves. This is why often it takes getting like a domestic violence protective order, or going no contact. Sometimes you have parents that feel entitled and they are pushing and pushing, and they are doing whatever it is they think that they are entitled to do, and you're like, I'm grown, you shouldn't be doing this. Maybe you live on your own, you're in your own place, you're an adult, you've been adulting, you pay your own bills, and they're still trying to be controlling. And so you finally reach a point where you go, oh, the only thing that will make them stop is not them. They will not stop themselves. So whenever I'm having these conversations with people about whether or not, they're a victim of abuse and they're wondering about it and they're worried about it, I'm often like, who has to be stopped? Who will not stop on their own? There's something you see really commonly with borderline personality disorder, BPD, but also you see it just in general. Like abusers, they get locked in on whatever it is that the issue is that they think it is, and they just keep going. Normal people don't do this. Normal people have the conversation and then you're done. If the conversation lasts longer than an hour, I would be very surprised. But for like two people having a discussion, over their feelings on a topic and their perspective. Like if you're a natural, not natural, but if you're a healthy couple having normal communication about an issue that's popped up, one, it's not criminal, it's not illegal, no one's been assaulted. But two, everyone's sort of discussing their perspective, and there's room for both people's ideas. It isn't a lecture, it's not a monologue, it's not one person jumping on the other person every time they open their mouth. That lets you know where the power in the dynamic really is. Who lets the other person talk or not talk, who allows the conversation to end. Anyway, so I was watching the Hell's Kitchen video, and I was just like, oh my gosh. I don't want to say triggering, because I wasn't like having PTSD flashbacks, but I could tell I was so angry within myself. I want to reach that screen. It's like, how dare you? Yeah, I really dislike when I watch people powering over people like that. I did also recently have like a little back and forth with somebody who you often see this online. Their approach to this debate, it was in a Mad Men comics comment section also. It was one of these people who like clearly cared a lot and was very invested in the argument, but acted nonchalant. And if you've ever been trying to like in good faith have a discussion or a debate with somebody and they're like, oh, you care so much, why do you care so much? And you're just like, you're here too. So anyway, I was reading through the thread, and I was just like, oh, he's one of these. And anyway, I made a comment and he popped up. And I was like, okay, off to the races. Except the way that I dealt with him, I really enjoyed this. I screenshot all of these because you never know. I started using his own over dismissive, nonchalant responses that he was using against other people. I was just quoting him back to himself. And it got under his skin. He finally got to the point where it was like, what's your end game? And I went and I found like the next like stupid response of his. And then the coup de grace, I was like, oh, this is good. His name was Last Still Rules 365, like the little YouTube, whatever at. And I was like, this is really interesting because he's clearly one of these abusers. I don't want to say abuser. I don't know that, but I wouldn't be surprised. He's one of these people who likes to dominate other people by having the last word. Regardless, they feel like they win as long as they get the last word. So they could be losing, but then they'll still say like one more thing. And that's when I commit. And I'm like, oh, buddy, I'm going to be here all night. I got you. And so anyway, my last comment was his name, Last Still Rules 365. I was like, what are the odds of this person with this kind of orientation, like literally made this their name? I really enjoyed it. Great time for me. But they don't like it when you do what they're doing back to them, or in this case, using the same words, the same phrases, quoting him back to himself. I don't even have to be nonchalant. All I have to do is like quote you back to you. But like I said, as always, this is not for most people. Don't do this. I'm built like this. Yeah. The last word people just like it makes them feel superior. It makes them feel like they're still winning. They're still the best, the most, the whatever. Yeah, it's like a very narcissistic thing to do. I don't usually use that word on the subreddit because there's like a whole if you're in abuse resources, people got very excited about narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, and they went a little hard with it. Then you had the like counter response of the pedantry about, what exactly is narcissism. But I do in the not personality disorder sense, but in the I'm the center of the universe sense. I think that insisting on having the last word is very narcissistic in these kinds of debates. And I feel like many victims of abuse have experienced this with a dominating person. So, the normal people get tired. Normal people do not want to deal with this. Normal people go, well, I'm just going to, and you don't realize that your little workarounds to hopefully not trigger them end up making you small. You suddenly don't feel like you can exist in a place that's supposed to be your home. You don't feel like you can say what's on your mind or listen to the music you want to listen to or have the conversations you want to have. And if you try, they hijack it for some other stuff. It's very demoralizing. And I always really liked the Harry Potter visual of like him living under the stairs. I think that's what ends up happening to victims of abuse in their own homes. They end up occupying the smallest possible corner of it and then apologizing for existing and breathing. So anyway, yeah, the dominating person is not, they don't allow you to be your own person. They don't allow you to have your own space. They don't allow you to have your own thoughts, feelings, ideas, belief. They don't allow you to be the person who makes decisions for yourself. And so it's very wearing for most people. Um, yeah, 10 out of 10 do not recommend. All right, so let's see. Yeah, what was there was something I wanted to like touch on. That's fine. We'll circle back around. Um, so let me check. Oh, both me and my fiance of 5 years have almost identical last names, but he is insisting that I change my last name after marriage. This argument is making me consider canceling the wedding. All right. All right. I'm not gonna what you will see with people who are being manipulative is they will say, oh, you're gonna cancel the wedding over this little thing. It's not that deep. It's not that serious. Whatever it is. If you try to set a boundary, you try to, like in that earlier example I was talking about where he went to the room and like shut the door and the guy still busted in there, tried to set a physical boundary. Or here it's like, oh, I'm not going to go through with this thing that we were planning on because I now have reservations. I'm concerned. Um and so now that's a kind of boundary. They're going to act like you setting boundaries shows that there's something wrong with you and like intrinsically deficient, or you're reading too much into things, or you're making a mountain out of a molehill, or dismissing your concerns, being condescending, diminishing your perspective, not even taking time to kind of like understand where you're coming from, because they're trying to get you to do what they want. What they want is more important. Behind every abuser is a very deeply selfish person. Even they're like the vulnerable, covert, narcissistic abuse type. Like, even if they're like, oh no, I'm the worst person ever, like it's still about them. It's about them and their feelings. And this is different than like a victim. But the covert, vulnerable, like kind of abuser will, oh my gosh, I must be the worst mom. Oh my God, and then you're like, oh no, but you're not, it's a method of eliciting like a certain emotional response, and it ends up being controlling, particularly like long term. There was something I mentioned in a video and I referred to it as the event horizon of an abuse dynamic, and I actually was like, that's good. Wherein any abuse dynamic that you're in, it starts off with these small things that the abuser is going to tell you either it's not a big deal or that you're wrong about, and that you should second guess your responses or thoughts to the controlling things that they're doing. And so maybe you listen to them and you go, oh, okay, well, maybe it's not that big of a deal. And maybe I am making a mountain out of a molehill. And so you continue forward in this dynamic with them. But then there comes a point that's the event horizon of the abuse dynamic. The event horizon in a black hole is the point at which once you're past that point, you are now stuck in the black hole and you can't get out. You have now gone past the point at which your own, the engine of your ship, let's say, could get you out of that gravity well that you could escape. You are now stuck. You're going into the black hole. You're on this sort of momentum. And I think that's true for victims of abuse as well. There is a point, there's an event horizon of an abusive dynamic where once you pass that event horizon, you can't get out because the abuser has through the coercive control or through violence, or through psychological like manipulation toward the victim. They've kind of cut off every avenue that the victim might have, especially if they've isolated them. So if the victim doesn't have their own money and there's nobody in their lives, and they've conditioned to the point where they think they are the one who is so bad and wrong, and they're being punished by the abuser, and the abuser is not letting them do anything, right? You're no longer a person, you're a punching bag. There's that event horizon. The hope is always that, sometimes there's an accidental outside issue that then therefore the victim can be rescued. So if you're one of these people that's been the stories, like for like a Jeffrey Dahmer, like that guy in Europe who put his daughter in the basement, where these people have been either harmed or they've been held captive for years, and then suddenly something happens, maybe there's like a gas leak or whatever the thing is, they finally get discovered, but they pass that event horizon of the abuse dynamic. And so that's one reason why I really love the kind of rubric that I came up with, in terms of, not like, yes, we love a list of these, this is abuse. Doing these things is doing things that are on the spectrum of abusive behaviors. But that's why I also like paying attention to how someone thinks, because the abuse doesn't start off big at first, usually. Otherwise, they're a murderer. Otherwise, they're a person who commits assault. They start off small so that as you invest more, they escalate more. And they'll tell you it's your fault. So recognizing how abusers think and how it's different and unhealthy and toxic as compared to how healthy people think, and how healthy people conduct their relationships. I think that really can help victims recognize, oh, I'm in danger, before they pass the event horizon of the abuse dynamic, where you can recognize, you know what? It doesn't even the whole justification piece of the way that they justify how they treat the victim, the punishment, the consequences, that they are enacting toward the victim, because they're blaming their rage responses, their violence, their machinations, the abuse, they're blaming it on the victim. Again, a healthy person, if you truly were doing something wrong, a healthy person would not respond in these ways. They're not excited for an opportunity to like harm another person. They get tired. They'd rather just not. They don't want to do that. They're going to end the relationship or walk away from it. And there are many, many people who, especially if you are a child victim of abuse, or, for some reason you haven't found like, friends or community or boyfriend, girlfriend, or something like that. When people walk away from you, it's very hard. Like if you haven't learned to be healthy, it hurts when you feel like you're being rejected like that. But that is what healthy people do. Healthy people go, oh, this is not healthy and I don't want to be here. And they leave. An unhealthy, abusive person is going to be angry and be mad and they think that they're in a position to tell other people who they are and how they should be. And this is, again, different than a victim of abuse saying, hey, no, I get to be a person and make decisions for myself. You don't get to tell me that. So telling them that they can't be abusive toward you or misuse their access or power over you is not the same as what we're describing. So like I said, if you are with someone who seems to be energized the more angry they are, fucking run. That is a huge, 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 huge indicator you're dealing with an unsafe person. So yeah, they get energized when they're angry. They are excited when you've done something wrong. And now you're getting the monologue or diatribe, or it's not a back and forth conversation. Like I don't even do that with my son, or like as a parent, when you're dealing with kids, you still want to know what they think. Even if they did something wrong, you want to know what they thought. So you can like correct the misthinking. You still want to know. So the fact that they're doing a supervillain monologue at you, And then I've done a video on this before, but it's back in the archives. Many victims of abuse have a fantasy, speaking of the monologue, they think that if they just have the opportunity to say everything that is the truth and to tell the abuser everything that they've done, maybe even they have proof, they have their monologue moment as if it's a story of triumph. And at the end of the story, the crescendo is having the monologue. Abusers will not let you get through a monologue. They're not going to sit there and listen to you. They're going to demand you listen to them, but they're not going to sit and listen to you. And I think victims of abuse, well, one, I think we can engage in a lot of magical thinking. But two, there's a lot of media that shows this. Oh, the underdog, the victim finally gets to tell the person, and they have their triumphal moment. They have their monologue. And it's a lie. I've never, in decades of seeing abusers and victims in dynamics, never once seen it. The only maybe the only time is if something happens in public, and usually abusers tend to be really perceptive to how they're perceived. They're going to argue with you that they're not being abusive, but yet still they understand how it looks to other people, like outside the situation, that they don't have control over, or that they don't have control over how they think or how they perceive the situation. So yeah, you're probably not going to get a monologue. You're probably not going to change their mind. You're probably not going to get them to agree that you didn't do anything wrong. They're not living in reality. And I find that if you leave them alone, they often or may come around to it. Not maybe a full understanding, but they'll be like, I regret it. I regret that my abusive ex, he said, I regret that I was so ugly about XYZ thing. Wasn't able to bring himself to the full awareness of just how like abusive and controlling he was. Because from his perspective, he was correct. But yeah, I know those moments pop up in his mind. There's only so much, you have to be like truly pathological to like really not be bothered by when you've assaulted another person. Anyway, so let me see. Covered. I think I might end it there. So it's kind of early. It's been like 30 minutes. What was another one? Sometimes I save these because it reminds me of the thing that I want to talk about. Wait, who called me? Oh, one of the kids. I think having an affair, blah, blah, blah. Oh my gosh. Okay, talking about affairs. Affairs, cheating can unintentionally cause the biggest switch up. So if you are with someone and they've cheated on you, you can feel heartbroken. But also sometimes I've seen victims of cheating go on to be abusive because they think they're entitled to punish or to give the other person consequences. And sometimes they go really bad, right? Like, now I'm checking your phone and you need to let me know where you are all the time. And it's like, yes, this person was shitty and they were doing something that was not okay. 100%. I personally do consider cheating abusive because you are physically exposing a person to another, like, unsafe, like if they're having sex, you're exposing your partner without their consent. You're also spending joint resources in a way that the other person wouldn't agree to, were they to know about it. So it's to me, it's a covert kind of abuse. But sometimes people like go away in the other direction. And so even though you're hurt, the healthy thing to do is to not think that you can manage the situation for vindication. That you can make them not cheat on you. Like this should make one tired. This should be emotionally draining. It should not be a thing that you would want to do. So the healthy person response legitimately is to go, oh, I mean, I'm heartbroken, but okay, we got to end this. The problem is there's something called betrayal trauma. Hold on. I'm gonna pull that up. because betrayal trauma, that one snuck up on me. I was not prepared for betrayal trauma, where essentially the person does something to you that's so heinous, but then you like cling to them harder. Okay, this is from my girl Jennifer Freyd. Okay, she's the one who came up with Darvo, the deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. She's the same person who came up with betrayal trauma. It says it occurs when someone crucial to your survival or well-being violates your trust. And so then you might self-blame, you might dissociate. And this is often maybe you're dependent on this person. So honestly, when you should be letting go, you cling harder. It can trigger you into trying to, oh, I'll be the best spouse ever. Please, please don't cheat on me. Please don't leave me. When the normal response would be to be like, oh my gosh, we got to end this. Sometimes when the betrayal trauma gets engaged, you can end up doing things that don't make sense. And then later on you look back on it and you're like, well, why did I respond that way? Like this person hurt me. They violated my trust. Why was I holding on harder? And it's because you're somebody that is in the place of a person that you is intrinsic to your well-being, someone that you rely on. And it's so destabilizing that to to end things, it feels like it would be like ending your life. So anyway, all right. Well, I hope that makes sense. I hope everyone has a great Father's Day weekend. I will not be contacting my own father, but I don't dislike him. I don't hate him. Um, I respect all of the ways that he has contributed to like good qualities that I have, and I do recognize that he tried very hard. But it's so much easier to have this very healthy attitude when he is we are not in contact. So I will think good thoughts. I will pray for him, and I will mind my business. And that is what I will do. So hopefully if you have people in your life that are fathers, that are good fathers, or if you yourself are a father, a good father, happy Father's Day to you and to them. And I hope you're able to connect with the people who have been healthy father figures for you, whether or not you're actually related to them. Anyway, I will talk to y'all next time.